the first kingdom Monera, and this particular kingdom contains prokaryotic cells. So the kingdom Monera includes the most ancient, the primitive form of organism with a very small and very simple. And so these organisms are called as microorganisms. So Monera includes the most primitive and simplest form of organism. Mostly they are prokaryotics as they are primitive forms, and these organisms are regarded as the first inhabitants of the earth. So these organisms on the evolution point of view regarded as the first inhabitants of the earth. And bacteria is regarded as the sole member. Bacteria is regarded as sole member of the kingdom Monera. This is a very important point. The Monera contains bacteria. So we are going to discuss about bacteria in this particular chapter. So let's talk about bacteria. So we are just going to discuss a brief account of bacteria and the detailed cell structure, its life process detail we'll study in the prokaryotic cell, that is in the cell chapter. Okay, bacteria is almost present everywhere. Means they are cosmopolitan. They are cosmopolitan in their habitat, means found everywhere in the world. And hundreds of bacteria are present in the handful of soil. It is when we go for any handful of soil, so present hundreds and millions of bacteria present in a handful of soils. So bacteria can live in extreme habitats. Bacteria can live in extreme habitat or harsh habitats, like they are found at a hot spring, they are found in deserts, they are found in snow, they are found in deep oceans also. Many bacteria lives as parasite on other organisms. So they live as parasite. So as the bacteria parasite, so they are what? Disease causing. They are pathogenic in their nature. And most Monerans are primitive organisms, so they can flourish in different organism environment. Normally, move to the characters of Monera, we find these are either unicellular organisms or they are present in colonies, they are present in groups in colonies, or they are present in filamentous form. Either unicellular form or present in groups called as colony, or they are present in filamentous forms. So this is the arrangement of habitats of bacteria. Now, they are mostly prokaryotic organisms as they don't contain nuclear membrane, they don't have membrane bound organelles. So these are prokaryotic organisms. As we know, the nuclear membrane, the nucleolus, and the histone proteins are absent, which are the condition of eukaryotic organisms. These nucleoid, the naked DNA, this bacteria contains nucleoid, and this nucleoid is a naked DNA present, means they don't have nuclear membrane. As they don't have nuclear membrane, the DNA is exposed in the cytoplasm, so it is called as the naked DNA, and it is mostly circular DNA, and also it is double stranded. It is mostly circular DNA and it is mostly double stranded DNA. Got it? They contains RNA. Yes, they contains three basic types of RNA. That they contains mRNA. They have mRNA. They have 70S, that is rRNA. They contains rRNA, and also they contains tRNA. And the RNA present mostly are inside the ribosome, rRNA, that is ribosomal RNA. This ribosomal RNA is present inside 70S ribosome. Inside 70S ribosome. What is 70S? We'll study details in the cell structure. Got it? So now let's move. And the DNA is circular. Yes, the DNA is circular. The DNA is circular and it is double stranded. DNA is circular and double stranded. But when we talk about the bacteria, Archaebacteria, Mycoplasma don't have no cell wall. They don't have cell wall. But Archaebacteria contains cell wall with a modified form so that they can survive in harsh and primitive conditions. But mostly bacteria contains in the cell wall a chemical that is called as peptins present and glucose present. So peptidoglycan is present. It is sometimes called as murine. We'll study detail in the cell chapter. It is sometimes called as murine. Whereas Archaebacteria don't have murine, they have branched lipid chains. We'll discuss later in our cell chapter. Okay. Now let's move to the structure. We find the outermost structure. The outermost structure normally present is, that is the capsule. So capsule is the outermost structure. Next to the capsule, we find the cell wall present. Next to the cell wall, we find the cell membrane present. So these are the outer boundary or the outer covering. These are the outer boundary. Inside the boundary, we find the fluid present called as cytoplasm. Inside cytoplasm, we find 70S ribosomes are present. This ribosome present, it is a 70S ribosome. 70S ribosomes are present. and we find a naked DNA present that is called as nucleoid, and this nucleoid contains naked DNA. This nucleoid contains that is called as naked DNA. And also we find some inclusions are present like gas vacuoles present, volutin presence, phosphate granules are present, etc. etc. And also we contains in some bacteria, not all bacteria, we contains extra chromosomal DNA present that is called as plasmid. This is called as extra chromosomal DNA. Extra chromosomal DNA. So we find extra chromosomal DNA. And in the outer part we find certain appendages present. A long appendage is present for movement that is called as flagella, which is made of flagellin protein. We find small, then we find attachment to attach with any organism, which is fimbriae present, and also we contain spilia that do help in reproduction. That is sex spilia present that do help in reproduction. So this is the brief structure of the bacteria, that is the bacteria present in Monera kingdom. But we'll study the detailed structure, what is how cell wall is made up of, water capsules made of slime, loose slime, all we'll study in the chapter that is called as the cell chapter. Okay. Now let's move. So we find that in bacteria we don't find membrane bound organelles are present like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi body, etc. etc. They all are absent. And the ribosome present is of 70S types. And in some bacteria, they are photosynthetic bacteria, some are non-photosynthetic. So these are photosynthetic bacteria, special bacteria present. These are photosynthetic bacteria which prepare their own food. Then the respiratory enzymes are also present in the cell membrane. Suppose this is the cell wall is present. For example, this is the cell wall present. So inside the cell wall, we find enfoldings are present. These type of enfoldings are present. And these enfoldings are called as mesosomes. These enfoldings are called as mesosomes. Inside mesosomes, we find the respiratory enzymes are present. So inside mesosomes, we find the respiratory enzymes are found to be present. Got it? So inside mesosomes, so these are the enfoldings of the plasma membrane called as mesosomes. Mesosomes. And the mesosomes is of two types. One is the septal mesosome, another one is called lateral peripheral mesosomes. And these mesosomes contains the respiratory enzymes for respiration. So respiration. So normally the respiratory enzymes helps in performing that is called as the Krebs cycle. So the mesosomes are acting as the primitive mitochondria. They are the mitochondria, primitive mitochondria that helps Krebs cycles to produce ATP. Got it? But in the cytoplasm we find that is glycolysis takes place. So glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm. So normally the release of ATP or the release of energy currency is from a special structure plasma membrane that is called as mesosomes, which behaves as mitochondria because it do contains the respiratory enzymes to maintain the Krebs cycle, the process that do helps in producing ATP. Okay. Now, reproduction is mainly asexual. Mainly it is asexual mode because they don't have gametes. So the reproduction is without gametes. It is without gametes. Got it? And bacteria show both autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition as we have discussed earlier. So bacteria show both autotrophic and heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Autotrophic bacteria synthesize food from inorganic substances. They produce organic compounds. They produce organic compounds. From inorganic substances, they produce organic compounds. Got it? And photosynthetic autotrophic bacteria, they need light energy. And for chemosynthetic bacteria, they need chemical energy. So photosynthetic and chemosynthetic both are autotrophic. Both are what? Now autotrophic organisms. So heterotrophic bacteria obtain ready-made food. So they depends on autotrophs for their foods. And now heterotrophic bacteria are pathogenic. They are normal. Some are pathogenic. Some are friendly and some are pathogenic. Heterotrophic nutrients is mostly that is saprophytic, means they depend on dead organism. So they extract the food from the dead organic matter. So mostly they are what? That is saprophytic. Some undergo symbiotic mutual benefit and some depends on living host. So parasite, they depends on living host. And saprophytes are dead, so they are decomposers. So these bacteria are decomposers and parasites are pathogenic. These are pathogenic. And symbiotic, they are mutual benefit. They help in mutual benefit. We find mutual benefits bacteria present. Got it clear? Okay, next let's move. Shape of bacteria. So the bacteria classified on the basic shape. Who see a spherical shape means the bacteria are spherical in nature. So these are called as coccus, a cocci. Bacillus, if the bacteria is a rod shape like structure. So this is spherical structure and this is a rod shape like structure. So bacillus. Vibrio, if the bacteria is comma shape like structure. If the bacteria is comma shape like structure, it is called as Vibrio bacteria. Spirillum, is the bacteria is spiral in structure. If the bacteria is spiral in structure, they are called as spirillum bacteria. So the plural form of coccus, cocci, got it? Bacilli, got it. So these are the basic shape. So this is the coccus form, this is the bacillus form, and this is the spirillum form, and this is the vibrio form. But we have different shape of bacteria. There are different types of bacteria present, and the cocci is again classified into different types. The bacillus is also classified into different types, and other bacteria is also classified. Let's discuss one by one about the classification of bacterial shape. Okay, let's discuss about the different shape. So let's talk about the first shape. So when we move on to the first shape of bacteria, let's discuss about the coccus form. This coccus is again classified. It is called as monococcus. Monococcus. So monococcus bacteria, if it is free living, only single bacteria present. Diplococcus. Diplococcus. So diplococcus we find if the bacteria are present in colonial form and it's 2 in number. Streptococcus. Streptococcus. In Streptococcus we find that group of colonies present in chain form. In Streptococcus we find they are present in chain form. Staphylococcus. Staphylococcus. In Staphylococcus we find they are present in bunch, grapes like form. If they are present in bunch, they are called as Staphylococcus. Sometimes also we find that the bacteria are present in 8 in number, 4 in number. If they are present in 8 in number, and these bacteria are sometimes called as Sarcina. These bacteria is called as Sarcina. And sometimes the bacteria are present in 4 in number, in 4 colonial form, and it's called as Tetracoccus. Tetracoccus. So these are different forms of coccus bacteria. So let's go for this example. In monococcus, which group of bacteria is regarded as monococcus? That is Micrococcus luteus. This is Micrococcus luteus is the example. And Diplococcus. Diplococcus is Diplococcus pneumoniae. Diplococcus pneumoniae, that causes the pneumonia disease. Then move on to that is called as Streptococcus. In Streptococcus, the best example that is called as the present Streptococcus lactis. Streptococcus, that is called as lactis. And Staphylococcus, which are present in bunch, grapes like structure. And the Staphylococcus example is called as Staphylococcus aureus. Staphylococcus aureus. And when we move on to Sarcinia, that is called Sarcinia lutea. Sarcinia lutea is its example. Sarcinia lutea. And when we move on to Tetracoccus, the best example is called as Neisseria. So these are the examples. So monococcus, we find free living bacteria simple, that is the example of Micrococcus luteus. We find Diplococcus present in 2 in colonial form, Diplococcus pneumoniae. We find Streptococcus which is present in chain like forms, and we find Staphylococcus which are present in bunch, that is called as Streptococcus lactis is for Streptococcus, and Staphylococcus aureus is for bunch. And we find present in 4 in number, that is called as Tetracoccus, and that is called as Neisseria. And we find sometimes Sarcinia which are present 8 in number in 3D structure in a colonial form, and this is called as Sarcinia lutea. So these are the different shapes of bacteria of coccus. Now let's discuss about the different types found to be present in the bacteria that is called as Diplococcus. So when we move on to Diplococcus, let's talk about let's talk about that is called as Bacillus. That is rod shape. Now let's discuss about the different forms present in the rod shape bacteria. So rod shape bacteria is simple if they are present in free form. If they are present in simple free form, that is called as Monobacillus. Monobacillus. bacillus. Means these are present in simple form, and the best example of monobacillus is called as lactobacillus. Lactobacillus is the best example of monobacillus. And the second one that is called as diplobacillus. Diplobacillus. So diplobacillus, they are present in colony of 2. Diplobacillus, they are present in colony of 2. And the best example of diplobacillus is called Bacillus subtilis. Bacillus, that is called subtilis. Bacillus subtilis. And the third one, that is called as Streptobacillus, which are present in the chain. Streptobacillus. They are present in chain, colonial chain. So if they are present in chain form, that is called as Streptobacillus. And the best example is called as Streptomyces. Streptomyces. There are certain bacteria which are present in, that is, stalk-like form. There are certain bacteria which are present in stalk-like form, for that is called as palisade. Palisade bacillus. Palisade bacillus, which are present in, that is, stalk-like form. Palisade bacteria. Got it? So these are the different shapes of bacteria found to be present in bacillus. This is called as monobacillus, free-living bacteria. Example is lactobacillus. Diplobacillus, 2 in number, colonial form. Bacillus subtilis. Streptobacillus, they are present in chain. And palisade bacillus, they are present in stacks. So these are different forms of shapes present to be present in the form that is called as bacillus. Now, some bacteria are present where we find that they are stalked bacteria. Some are stalked bacteria. Stalked rod-shaped bacteria. Means these bacteria are rod-shaped, but they have stalk-like structures. So as the stalk, the best example that is called as Caulobacter. The best example is called as Caulobacter. And some bacteria, they are present, they are pleomorphic. Pleomorphic means they change their shape. They change their shape accordingly. And the best example is called as Rhizobium. Rhizobium is the best example. And this pleomorph sometimes it becomes coccus, sometimes it becomes bacillus according to the nature of the surrounding. So any organism, any bacteria that change its shape according to the change of the surrounding is called as pleomorphic, and the best example is that is called as Rhizobium. And later in the chapter cell, we'll study about the gram-positive bacteria. There are certain bacteria present that is called as gram-positive bacteria on the basis of cell wall, and that is called as gram-negative bacteria. So we'll study later this in the chapter that is called as cell. So this is all about the general character and general shape of the bacteria. In the detailed structure of the bacterial cell and its functions, we'll study in the chapter that is called as prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. Okay. Okay, now let's start. That is bacterial life process. So normally this bacterial life process is involved in 2 parts. One is respiration, other one is called as nutrition. So we'll learn detail about the respiration and its nutrition. So what is respiration? Respiration is, that is, oxidation of food materials to release energy, or metabolic activities called as respirations. And the respiration is again of 2 types, either in presence of oxygen or in absence of oxygen. Absence of oxygen. Got it? So either aerobic respiration or anaerobic respiration. So what is respiration? Respiration is called as oxidation of food to release metabolic energy, or various metabolic activities. So metabolic energy in the form of ATP. So respiration either in presence of oxygen because oxidation, or in absence of oxygen. So this is called as aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Okay. And bacteria are divided on this basis of aerobic and anaerobic into 2 different forms. What are they? One is obligate, another one is called as facultative. So what is obligate? Obligate means that throughout the lifespan, the bacteria only use oxygen to survive. Means they are aerobic. Aerobic throughout the lifespan. Throughout their lifespan. They are aerobic throughout their lifespan. So this is called as what? This is called as obligate. So obligate means presence, they use oxygen. Aerobes means, strict aerobes means they use oxygen throughout the lifespan. Means they always survive in aerobic condition. If anaerobic condition comes, then they die, unable to survive. Then they possess enzymes for aerobic respiration. Yes, to maintain aerobic respiration, what all enzymes are needed? They have all the enzymes present. And the best example is called as Bacillus subtilis. So Bacillus subtilis is the main example of obligate, or that is called as strict aerobes. Then move on, what is facultative anaerobes? So normally they are aerobic. Yes, facultatives are normally aerobic, but in adverse condition. But in adverse condition, they change to anaerobes. They change to so called as facultative anaerobes. In adverse condition, they switch to anaerobic condition, and this nature is called as facultative. The best example is called as Pseudomonas. So facultative are normally aerobic. They are normally aerobic, but in adverse condition they change to anaerobic. And this nature is called as what? Facultative. Got it? Then move on to obligate anaerobes. Since obligate means what? Strict means throughout the lifespan they behave as anaerobic. So bacteria respire anaerobically throughout its lifespan. So throughout its lifespan the bacteria respire anaerobically. And in this condition the growth is very slow because less energy is utilized. Less energy means 2 ATP will be released from anaerobic respiration per glucose molecules. But in aerobic condition we release 38 ATP per molecules. But here as the energy is less, so the growth is also very less. And the best example is called as Clostridium botulinum. So Clostridium botulinum is the best example of obligate anaerobes. Facultative means normally they are anaerobes, but in adverse condition they change to, that is, aerobes. So normally they respire anaerobically, but in adverse condition they change the mode to aerobically, and this is called as facultative. So facultative are dreaded, they are highly pathogenic because they change according to the change of the surrounding. And the best example is that is called as photosynthetic bacterium, that is chlorobium. So chlorobium is the best example of facultative aerobes. What is facultative? Normally they are what? Normally they are anaerobes, but in adverse condition they change to aerobic mode. Now let's classify the nutrition. So what is nutrition? That is synthesis of its food materials or extracting its food materials. So bacteria classified on the basis of nutrition into 2 types, and it depends on the carbon source. And the classification of bacteria always depends upon the carbon source, because to produce organic or inorganic compounds they need carbon materials, and it also depends on energy and electron transport. So not only carbon, they also need energy, and also they need electrons to classify the nutrition. So the first one, that is called as the first part of nutrition, that is called as photolithotropic. So photo, light, in presence of light. Lithotropic means from inorganic substances to produce organic substances, and it is of 2 types. One is called as purple sulfur bacteria. They use the pigment that is called as bacterioporphyrin pigment, and they use inorganic sulfur, inorganic compounds, and the donor, the electron donor and H plus donor are present from this sulfur compound. The best example is called as chromatium and thiospirulum. So on the basis of photolithotropic bacteria, one is purple sulfur bacteria, another one is called as green sulfur bacteria. Purple sulfur bacteria use bacterioporphyrin, whereas green sulfur bacteria use bacterioviridin. So bacterioviridin pigment or chlorobium pigment is used by this green sulfur bacteria. And H2S, that is E minus H plus donor, is extracted from H2S, and the best example is chlorobium. So photolithotropic bacteria uses light as its energy. So they use light energy. So the solar energy is used by this bacteria. So it is called as photo. And they synthesize complex food from inorganic materials with the help of the pigment that is called as bacteriochlorophyll or bacterioviridin. So they use light, they use inorganic compounds, they use inorganic compounds. So they use inorganic compounds, that is lithotropes, litho, and it is of 2 types. One is called as purple sulfur bacteria, another one is called as green sulfur bacteria. The purple sulfur bacteria contains bacteriochlorophyll as the pigment to produce synthesized food, and the green sulfur bacteria contains bacterioviridin. The green sulfur bacteria contains bacterioviridin, and the purple sulfur bacteria contains bacteriochlorophyll. And these are photosynthetic bacteria, but they never release oxygen. They never release oxygen. So they are non-oxygenic, non-oxygenic photosynthesis, or it is called as anaxygenic photosynthetic bacteria, because hydrogen acts the reducing power. Electron is released from this hydrogen. Got it? And no oxygen is evolved during this process. So no oxygen is evolved. So water splitting is also not done. That means water is not broken down to oxygen or H plus ions. So no release of oxygen. And the reducing nature comes from that is H2S or from the sulfur. That is directly it comes from sulfur or from H2S. So like carbon dioxide is the raw material used, and they use H2S. They use H2S. Solar energy is used. So sugar is produced plus sulfur is produced. Not oxygen, no oxygen. Sulfur is produced and water is produced. So this is an oxygenic photosynthesis. Got it? Photoorganotrophic means they use organic compound to produce organic materials. These bacteria use organic matter, so it is called as photoorganotrophic. But the bacteria that uses inorganic matter is called as lithotropes. And organic matter acts as electron donor. And in the last we studied litho, there inorganic compounds acts as electron donor, but here organic compounds acts as electron donor. Got it? And here organic matter also acts as carbon source. And this photoorganotrophic bacteria that, as we have already discussed, it is called as purple non-sulfur bacteria because it is organic. So it is non-sulfur bacteria, like the green non-sulfur bacteria. It is organic. So the best pigment is Bacteriopurpurin for purple non-sulfur and Bacterioviridin for green non-sulfur. And they use the aliphatic organic compounds. They use aliphatic organic compounds as electron and hydrogen donor. The best example is called as Rhodospirillum and Rhodopseudomonas for purple non-sulfur bacteria, and for green non-sulfur bacteria it is Chloronema. The best example is Chloronema and Chloroplexus. Got it? So this is all about photoorganoheterotropic. So we got two types of bacteria present. One is that is photolithotropic. One is photolithotropic bacteria, another is photoorganotropic. In lithotropic, inorganic compounds are used. In here, what is organic compounds are used. So this is all about the nutrition of this particular bacteria. So purple non-sulfur bacteria. Let's discuss about purple non-sulfur bacteria. So they contains bacteriochlorophyll as the pigment to produce food materials. Organic compounds are used as electron donor. And the best example is Rhodospirillum and Rhodopseudomonas. Green non-sulfur bacteria, they contains Bacterioviridin as the pigment, and non-sulfur organic compounds acts as the electron donor. And the best example is Chloronema and Chloroplexus. Got it? This is all about your green non-sulfur bacteria. Now let's move to the next part of autotropic, that is called as chemosynthetic. So we have discussed the first one, that is called as phototropic bacteria, which is of two types. One is photolithotropic, another one was photoorganotropic. And now we are going to discuss about chemotropic. They use chemicals. They use chemicals to produce food, and later last time we used photolithotropic, they use light. So here these bacteria synthesize food by oxidation. Yes, it is by oxidation process. And the energy is obtained from inorganic substances. So here the energy is obtained from inorganic substances for oxidation process. And light is not the source of energy. Here light is not the source of energy, but chemical are the source of energy. So ATP molecules trap the released energy. So ATP molecules trap the released energy and they recycle the nutrients into nitrogen and sulfur. So they recycle into nitrogen and sulfur. So we call them that nitrogen chemosynthetic bacteria or sulfur chemosynthetic bacteria. So they help in recycling iron, they help in recycling sulfur. Let's take an example, that is hydrogen bacteria. They helps, hydrogen chemical is used to synthesize food, and the example is called as Hydrogenomonas. Nitrifying bacteria, Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter. Sulfur bacteria, Thiobacillus and Thiooxidans. So these are the iron bacteria, that is Ferrobacillus. And iron bacteria is also called as Leptothrix. So these are the certain examples of chemosynthetic bacteria, and these bacteria obtain energy from oxidation reaction from the inorganic compounds. Chemoorganotropic heterotropic bacteria, these bacteria synthesize food from raw materials. So chemoorganotropic, these chemoorganotropic heterotropic bacteria are the bacteria that synthesize the food from the raw materials, and they absorb nutrients from the dead matter or from the living host. So this includes organic matter. So dead matter, it may be saprophytic or saprobiotic, or it is parasitic, or it is symbiotic, either parasitic or symbiotic. Yes, accordingly we know what it may be: saprophytic for dead, symbiotic for mutual benefit, parasitic it extract from living organic matter. Got it? This is called as hemorganotropic heterotrophic bacteria. Saprophytic bacteria. These bacteria depends on dead organic matter and they helps in decomposer. So they are called as decomposers. They are called as decomposers. They act as decomposers. Yes, they act as decomposers. And they convert complex organic substances into soluble compounds. And these soluble compounds are again diffused into the bacteria as nutrients. Symbiotic bacteria. Symbiotic bacteria, they undergo mutual benefit with the host, like E. coli present in inside intestine. Rhizobium bacteria present leguminous plant for nitrogen fixation. They help in fixing nitrogen. And in return, they get the shelter and food from the symbiotic host. And this symbiotic bacteria, example, expects Azotobacter or Bergernicia. They are aerobic nitrogen fixer. Clostridium, which is anaerobic nitrogen fixer. These are the best example. Azotobacter is aerobic nitrogen. Clostridium pastorianum is the anaerobic nitrogen fixation. It helps in anaerobic nitrogen. Lichen. Lichen is the combination of fungi and algae. It is not included in bacteria, but just it is one kind of symbiotic association. Parasitic, that depends on living host. The organism extract food materials from living host. So they are what? Disease causing, or they are pathogenic in nature. Matlab, they are disease causing. Host may be plants or it may be animals. And disease causing bacteria are pathogenic. Yes. So parasitic bacteria are mostly pathogenic bacteria because they help in causing diseases.